I think everyone knows everyone. We probably don't need introduction. And yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Thanks, Keith, for setting us up, and you're doing a recording, which is great, so we can share that out. Christina, do you want to start?
Sure. Let's get started. Good morning and good afternoon and also good evening to this latest edition of the Mahara User Group meeting. And today's plan is that I'll just tell you a little bit about the new things that are coming up in Mahara Land in spring, because we are just getting started with the nice weather over here in New Zealand. And then Roger is giving us an update on what is happening at Solent University. So let's get right into it. The first thing that I wanted to briefly to talk about is our new Mahara Partner Program, because we have announced it earlier in September. And so just a quick introduction to it, because there are a number of changes compared to the old program that are of interest to the community, I think. So in the past, we always only had companies being able to join the Mahara Partner Program because it was for companies offering services around Mahara. However, we have a number of very active contributors like Pace University and also Solent and Purchase College, of course, as well, with making this webinar room available every time for the meetings. And also many others who contribute code, who contribute ideas that we were not really able to also give them a voice in the partner program and make them more visible to the rest of the community. And therefore, we decided to go with two tracks of the partner program, namely one for business partners and one for other supporters. So the business partner track is fairly similar to what we had in the past, that it is companies that offer Mahara services who can join the partner program. And the supporter track is for other organizations, or in some cases even individuals, who have been supporting the Mahara project already or are planning to ramp up their contributions, their active contributions to the project. In contrast to a number of other partner programs, though, we decided not to impose a fee on our partners, be it business partners or supporters, because we are more interested in active contributions of people from the community. So to make it more visible to the rest of the community that there are support companies and that it's not just Catalyst that supports the project, but that there are others around the world that can also offer Mahara services. And for the supporters, of course, because they already do not get any money for their contributions, that they get an acknowledgement of the support of the project by doing a number of things that help the project get further along, as I already mentioned, either through code contributions, through contributing ideas and fleshing them out, giving feedback that helps us to improve the software, or also organizing events like this Mahara User Group or Mahara Huis or any other event or online contributions that enhance what we can offer to the community. And all the details about how to become a partner, be it a business partner or supporter, can be found on our website at mahara.org/partners. There we've also published the partner guide, which outlines all the benefits and also responsibilities. And then the application process is very simple. Because we do not have to worry about any legal things really, since there are no hard obligations for partners. It is that partners are expected to contribute to Mahara, and of course, if somebody or a company or an organization becomes a partner but doesn't actually really contribute, then of course we would also reevaluate and see if there can be changes made over another period of time so that they can really also achieve the goal of becoming more active. And so as a core project, of course, we also want to support our partners and also that way the rest of the community in being more in touch with them and having events organized or more communication around it to also encourage people to become partners and seeing that they get some value out of that. And so anybody interested in the program can let us know and make a proposal of how they want to become active in the community if they haven't already been. Are there any questions from the crowd? And so far, actually, we pretty much only have Mahara partners in the audience today. Both Solent University and Pace University have joined as supporters, which is really fantastic because you two have really been active supporters for a number of years of the project already. So I'm really happy that we can now also make you official partners. And if there aren't any questions, I think I'll just continue. And
Christina, yeah,
yeah.
I was just wondering, what has been the response so far? Have you received other interest from other schools that perhaps aren't involved in MUG that, I'm just wondering if this might
Mhm,
be a way to pull people into MUG a little bit more if, they felt like they had a more, formal role to
mhm,
play or, had something that they could, um, officially name themselves to, to kind of, I don't know, lure them into MUG a little bit more with this kind of role. I'm just curious what kind of response you've gotten, if any, from other
mhm.
schools in the U.S.
Not so much yet, Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that might be because they are still at the beginning of their new semesters or haven't really seen it as an option for them because they haven't yet contributed so much. And so that is something that we will need to do over the next few weeks, a bit more seeing who else we can invite, because we have been inviting a number of our already active contributors, like yourself and others, and also for the partners inviting a number that we know offer Mahara services but haven't really been partners in the past, so that
Okay.
we can encourage them to also apply and therefore see how they can become active. It's what we had a little bit is that some people just thought, oh, because there are no fees, it's just easy for us to join. But we do also want to see the active contribution so that it is an active partnership and not just a silent one.
Right.
And so that's where we are in discussion with a few people around, okay, how do you see your contributions? Where do you see them? What is achievable for you? Because we don't want to make things extraordinarily difficult. Um, in saying that somebody has to go out of their way entirely and suddenly start programming in order to become a partner, but
Mm-hmm.
that it is things that are achievable and that can also be put, say, into a regular week, or that can be accomplished by somebody also on a more regular basis, instead of just saying, oh, this is so unsurmountably difficult that then we wouldn't get any contributions back. And so just finding the things sometimes of how somebody can contribute takes a little bit of time, but we are definitely on the lookout for organizations that do want to join or that have the capacity also to contribute more regularly and are interested in that also, maybe because they haven't really been doing it in the past but would very much like to, and then see how we can work with them. So if
Great.
you have anybody that you think, well, we've already been in discussion with them a few times and they are interested, they might be good, then please do let me know and we can get in touch with them.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you followed up with Teachers College or Pratt yet. I know Pratt is kind of trying to find someone to take ownership of Mahara portfolios since since that change, with the staff happened.
Yeah, those are definitely possibilities. I unfortunately haven't had time to follow up with everyone yet
Yeah.
due to time constraints on my end, but these are definitely discussions we can have. Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much.
Okay, then let's take a quick look at what's actually coming up later in this month. Seems like every month has some bigger announcements this spring, and so as you all know, Mahara 15.10 is kind of on the way to you. We are now in release candidate state, and just hope to get a little bit more testing done also by community members, getting some feedback from them in what works, what doesn't work. And so I just want to give you a very brief tour of some of the very visible features that you can see in Mahara 15.10. And so the most obvious one is that we are going to have new themes. Our current themes have been in existence for a number of years. And so we thought it's really time that we freshen things up a bit, just bring some new air in and provide you with more new themes that now also take advantage of the new CSS and HTML that we put in there, so that we can achieve a more modern look. So at the moment, we actually have 5 themes. I only displayed 4 of them here because the other one is the raw theme, but it could actually also be used as a proper theme itself. So we have the default theme, then the primary school theme, which is extremely colorful, again, has a few more icons in there than the other themes. And then we have on the bottom left, we have Ocean, which is a light blue theme. And on the bottom right, we have the modern theme. There's definitely still the possibility to include more themes, but for Mahara 15.10, we decided to go with these 4 plus the raw option because we are still making changes to our CSS and HTML, and so are still refining things while we have been developing those themes, and see how we can still make things also more flexible, and then might have a couple more options in there for 1604 next year. And we were able to make all those theme changes and give them this modern look and feel because we are basing our CSS and HTML now on Bootstrap. So we switched all our HTML, CSS, and also already a good chunk of the JavaScript out in order to replace it with Bootstrap. And that allows us to have this modern look and feel. Now all themes are responsive on mobile devices. Every theme can be viewed nicely. In the past, that was only the default theme that had this capacity. And we also work with the Font Awesome icons that are built directly into Bootstrap, making it possible to have consistent icons throughout that are actually being created really, really easily. So if you install Mahara, don't like one of the icons and prefer to use a different one, you don't even have to make up your own icons, but you just search the Font Awesome icon set and choose the icon that suits your needs, change the value in the CSS, and you're pretty much done with it. And so you can very quickly make even small changes and get started. Roger, we are using Bootstrap version 3. And yes, we know that Bootstrap 4 is coming, but it is still in the alpha state. So that will be something that we are looking for changing over for 16.10, so next October, because it might still be too fresh in order to implement it in 16.04. So the idea right now is that we are starting with Bootstrap now for 15.10, get the release out, and then see what other changes might need to be made for 1604, in particular around removing our old JavaScript and replacing it either with the JavaScript that comes in Bootstrap or other jQuery. and then yeah, get just some of the code also updated to more modern times. And yes, we went immediately with Bootstrap 3 because it was already well supported when we started that process at the end of last year. And therefore, we are quite different to Moodle because current versions of Moodle are still on version 2.3, I believe. But hopefully, they'll also be getting updated. The nice thing of having switched to Bootstrap is that a lot of other applications and frameworks also use that, and therefore it will become easier for a lot of organizations to achieve a common look and feel across their applications because they use similar elements, and also because a lot of people are already familiar with Bootstrap. It will be easier for them to make changes to the theme because they are already familiar with the language. But there are some other notable changes, and some of them, especially usability improvements, we could make because of Bootstrap or did it as part of the revamping of the CSS and HTML, which was primarily done by our front-end developers at Catalyst. And they've been working really, really hard on that over since about last mid-November, December, having worked continuously on improving things and switching things out, and therefore also already started changing the visual language of Mahara. And that meant moving buttons, unifying things a lot so that it is easier to style all the same things across Mahara, where in the past we sometimes used different versions. And so here's just a small sample of the usability improvements that we've made. Here you can see that we've made a change to the navigation within the groups so that the group navigation is now consistent and it is also more highlighted, making it possible for you to see directly which elements are in the group and how they relate to it, and that the group name is also always visible. On the same screen, you can also see that the individual sections now that you have in the group have the section name and also the group name displayed, and that is for the areas where the group name sometimes in the third level navigation there is not as immediately seen. And then also one improvement on the group homepage is that you can immediately edit this page instead of always having to go to the pages and then click the edit button for the group homepage. So you don't just only have the settings there, but now also that edit button. Another nice feature that we've already been, or that everybody I think has been waiting for many years, could now finally be implemented thanks to the Fernuniversität in Hagen in Germany. And that is group, institution, and site journals. So you can now set up journals anywhere in Mahara, and having institution and site journals really makes it very nice to also incorporate journals directly in templates, for example. And having group journals helps groups to work collaboratively on a blog or create a news journal and keep that updated. And that is a really fantastic functionality that we could implement, and we look forward to what you make from that. Another feature that consisted actually, again, of a number of smaller features is that now instead of just seeing pages on the Shared With Me tab, on the My Pages blog, and also on the latest pages blog on the dashboard, has now been revamped so that you actually always see your portfolios. So instead of seeing individual pages, you actually see the collection now, and you know of how many pages that collection contains. And that shortens the list of shared items that you can see on Shared With Me, and also makes it easier, especially if you have student groups that submit the same collections that consist of a number of pages, to see just those collections instead of having to scroll through a very long list of pages and trying to find the few that you have to get into as portal to the rest of the pages. And so, as I said, this happens in 3 places, namely on Shared With Me, on the My Pages blog, which has been renamed into My Portfolios, and then also on the Latest Pages blog, which is now the Latest Changes I Can View blog. And that'll hopefully be a very good improvement. And we have to thank Pratt Institute for that, because they have been very much involved in that development work in order to get it done and also to implement it then. Another feature that has been implemented thanks to funding from Switch in Switzerland is that comments can now also be threaded, meaning that you can reply to a specific comment and that your comment then is placed underneath it. So instead of just having a long list of comments and sometimes maybe not really knowing to which comment, if one further down relates, you can now really group them like in forums. And those replies do take privacy into consideration. So if you reply to a private comment, only you and the author of the page will also see the reply. Whereas if you reply to a public comment, then everyone will be able to see that. We now also have a default page template because in the past, Mahara always comes with a standard 3-column layout, but some people really don't like that. And so what a site administrator can now do is that they can change that default layout for all the pages within Mahara that are going to be created in new. So it is not creating templates instead of set pages that people would copy, but this page template is really the one that changes the default layout of a page. And any new page will take that and use it as spaces. So if you prefer to always start with a 2-column layout and already 2 rows, then you can implement that here on the site level. And that feature was implemented thanks to funding from iCampus 21 in Canada, because they really needed it for one of their new instances for a research project to make it easier to, in their case, also put other elements already directly on the page. But normally you would probably rather leave it empty, because if you put a picture on the page template, suddenly every single new page that is being created on the instance will have that picture as well. We also made some changes in the administration. There are many more that I'm not going to show you. I'm really focusing here on the high level changes and some of the exciting features. And this change here is for reporting purposes and making it easier to actually see how many people have been active within a given month and not have those statistics change over time. So here's a feature that we implemented for the New Zealand Ministry of Education for my portfolio. And that one is not just for multi-tenanted Mahara sites, but definitely also for individual ones, because on this statistics screen, you will see how many active users there were within a given month and how many times they have logged in. So that is the logins part of the site statistics. And the nice thing is that you can also define your time frame. So per default, you always see the previous month, but you can also change it to 2 months or 3 months. The thing you would need to note for this statistics screen, though, is that the data will only be accurate from when you install Mahara 15.10 or that feature if you want to backport it to your instance, because we needed to add some additional columns into the database so that all that information is being collected. Because in the past, we always replaced the last time you logged in and did not keep the old data, whereas now we keep whenever somebody logs in, put that into the database, and that's where the logins come from. And then the active users is the number of distinct users within the time frame that you have chosen. And of course, you can also export those statistics in CSV format and then manipulate them further. Sorry, Keith, I didn't see your question earlier. There are not different page templates for different institutions at the moment. We only implemented it for the site level because otherwise we don't really distinguish when we create a page whether it is in the institution or not. So there would be more work needed in order to achieve that. Especially also around groups, and we always have to take into consideration when people are in multiple institutions, and therefore this is just a side feature for the time being. What you can also see here on the screen is that we've updated our graphing for the site statistics in all of the statistics. So there's a new JavaScript library being used that now works on servers and gives you a better graphing engine. And the colors in there can actually also just be adopted if you want to make those even match your theme. Another administrator change that is really useful, especially when you have to administer users manually when they don't come from your single sign-on or LDAP or from Moodle, is that you can now change the primary email address directly in the administration area. There's now a field for that. It makes that email address that you put in there the primary, but it leaves any previous emails as secondary email addresses in the profile of the users in case they do want to switch things back. And so this primary email change also works when you upload, update users via CSV file. Because in the past, the email address via CSV file was added but didn't immediately become the primary one. So this is a really nice change that helps us administer instances and users more easily when there are just manual changes necessary. So where can you see a number of those features? Well, if you are not able to get a test site set up on your server or on your local machine, then you can use master.dev.mahara.org to test, to see all those features and others. If you register and want to become an administrator so you can also take a look in some of the administrative areas, then please let me know. And we can change your permissions there to administrator. Otherwise, of course, you can also install Mahara 15.10 on a test server or ask your IT department to actually already upgrade a test server of your current instance, just so you see how would it work with your own data, what might still be needed in order to make changes, and then also help us a little bit with the testing so that we see how does it behave, say, on a very large data set in a MySQL database, or when somebody has plugins installed, what happens, and all those things. So any testing that you can do would be very much appreciated. In terms of plugins, since I just mentioned them, the plugin authors will need to update their plugins themselves. And that is why Mahara 15.04, which is the last version before we implemented Bootstrap, is going to be a longer, or will have a longer release cycle and will go out of support only in October 2017. So we extended the shelf life of 1504 by 1 year, so that it's not just supported for a year and a half, but for 2.5 years, in order to give institutions that have a lot of customizations enough time to upgrade and make sure that they can also go through enough testing. If you are testing the release candidate, please, like usual, feel free to give us feedback on it. And that can be done in the forums, or if you want to report any issues that you come across, then please feel free to do that directly on our bug tracker. So that was just a very quick run through of some of the new features in Mahara 15.10. The list of new features might seem very small. Currently, I think we've counted 16 or 17. However, Bootstrap and the new themes are so massive that, but they are only represented by one feature request in the tracker, so that it's a little bit deceiving. And we haven't really listed all these small usability improvements that we've made as individual items. So they usually just flow again into this one huge feature improvement, even though there are a bunch of smaller improvements as well that will hopefully make the life again easier for you when you switch to that version in order to have more functionality available and also make it easier for your users. Yes, Roger, I agree. Bootstrap and the new themes definitely will make a big difference and give us a lot of opportunities for future improvements, because now that we are on a framework, we can take advantage of the things that are being implemented in Bootstrap. And then, of course, also with the themes, and that's the part I'll be talking about next. We can be more flexible, or people can use regular Bootstrap functionalities in order to extend the functionalities that we have already built into Mahara. And so there'll definitely be some more improvements for 16.04. What we had to do with Bootstrap for this release really is kind of look at the minimum features and requirements that we need to get done in order to make the release and in order to implement Bootstrap fully, because it wasn't possible to say, okay, let's keep some of the old themes and the old CSS and let's do some of the rest in Bootstrap, because there were so many changes that it was better for us to simply move everything to Bootstrap and then take that as a basis and make future improvements for further releases. So since I already mentioned that we now have Bootstrap and themes, I bet you're really curious on how you can actually start on your own theme if you wanted to give it a go, or if you just want to see what the process is. But just quick reading Linda. Hi, Linda. Oh, yes, fantastic. Yes, themes is usually themes and skins what people discover first when they start with Mahara, because that's how they can personalize their themes. And so let's take a quick look at what theming in Mahara with Bootstrap actually now means. We debated a long time of how to work with Bootstrap and how to implement it for theming. And we now have two options. The option one is the one that more people are going to be familiar with, is that you can change and implement regular CSS. That means that you can create a theme, put a style sheet in, and then put all the styles that you want to use in there. That is most likely going to be a bit work, because you will need to look at the individual styles that we implemented and then put those into your style sheet. And therefore, a better version, and also one that is more flexible, would be to use the functionality on which we've built our themes, and that is to use Sass and Gulp. And that really gives you a lot of flexibility. So Sass means that it's a syntactically awesome style sheet. It is an extension to CSS in which you can use variables, nested rules, mixins, inline imports, and many other things. So the basics that I, as non-developer and front-end developer and designer, get out of it is that you just have more flexibility available, and that you define variables in your theme and then only have to change those variables in order to achieve a different behavior somewhere else. And that makes it possible for us to really be flexible and also achieve a very consistent look and feel across Mahara. And ideally, of course, also only make changes in one place or in a very few number of places and change everything in Mahara itself, where those styles are being used. And so just to give you a quick example, if you only want to change a few colors in Mahara, namely the primary color, in this case here we have it in red, then the primary color in dark, that is text being used for headings, for example, or for other accented text. And mid-tone and light tone colors, those are those things for kind of where you see your name or the date on the left-hand side where we have latest changes I can view. So something that is a bit of secondary information. Then all you need to do is create your theme and then just change those few variables within the variable file. And you get the result that you can see in the background. And so that is a very quick thing if you say, well, we really only want to have one primary color and like the rest of the theme that it is actually so very much white and gray, then that's all that is needed. But of course, as you've seen on the themes that I showed you earlier, there's much, much more that you can actually do. So you can still put a header in there if you wanted. You can style blocks differently. You can change the dashboard, of course, still, and you can change icons and a lot of things. And in order for you not having to discover that and how to do it, it's very helpful to read the instructions in the README file that is in the theme folder, because that file tells any front-end developer and designer exactly of how to get started with Sass and Gulp, because what Sass and Gulp means is that the style sheet actually needs to be compiled, because all that you give in the theme is that you set variables and make other changes, and then they need to be converted into the actual CSS that is then being used by Mahara. So there is an additional step to the theming process, but it is very streamlined already. So we made it so that a number of things are automated. But if you install Mahara now for the first time, or Mahara 15.10, you do have to remember, and you will also be remembered as part of the installation, that you have to create the CSS via make CSS, just a command on the command line, and then all the themes are being built. We did debate for a bit of whether to go down this way or whether to actually provide the compiled CSS like Moodle does. And so we did decide to go down the route that everyone needs to compile their CSS themselves when they make theme changes, because that gives us just more flexibility. If you download Mahara from the web as a zip file, the themes are already compiled there for you so that you can get started. But if you use it from source or want to make changes to your themes, then the themes need to be compiled. And that was it. Unfortunately, I think I went a little bit longer than I intended to, but hopefully Roger will still have enough time to also tell us what he's currently doing at Solent, because what I showed you right now was pretty much what the Mahara core team has been up to for the last month already, before the 15.04 release in parts. And so I hope you do like some of the features and improvements and changes that we implemented. And will have the time to check them out, if not already use now later in the month, or if you are needing or planning on waiting until 1604, of course, we'll make more changes in there. As far as the release schedule goes, we do want to release Mahara 15.10 still in October. So it should be coming within the next 2 weeks that we'll have the final release out there. And we'll, of course, also update the user manual. Hopefully also somewhere around that time, it might be slightly after the release. But if you have any questions, please feel free just to let me know. And so unless there are any questions, over to you, Roger.
Hi, that was fantastic, Christina. Thank you very much. It was really, really useful information, especially around the themes and how the theme design works. It's really good. We're just going to
Especially
wait.
for you, Roger. I'm already totally excited what you'll make out of that on your instance.
Yeah, well, we're relaunching our VLE and intranet next summer. We've got a new teaching building coming, and Mahara will be part of that. So it's sort of a refreshed rebranding of the university going on at the moment, and obviously our web presence will be included. So these new themes and new Bootstrap 3 is going to make that one a lot easier, but also much more exciting. You know, the things we can do with it is going to be that we could be a bit more adventurous, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Roger, what I can show you in November when I'll be at Solent is that there'll be another Mahara droid as well. So
Yeah.
it's currently in the prototype phase. A student worked on it for his engineering project, and so we still have to make a number of just revisions and little bit of further work and a bit more testing. And then hopefully also within the next few months or so, we'll have an updated version of it, which will then also run on iOS devices. So we also need to think if we want to change the name or not, because Mahara Droid kind of alludes to it being an Android application. But it is actually now being based on Apache Cordova, which used to be PhoneGap, so that we can build the application cross-platform, so that it can also be used on other devices. But so much only for that. That'll be for another talk at some point. But yeah, right now I'm really excited to hear about what Roger has to tell us from Solent.
Well, I haven't really got many things I haven't got much to show you actually, because I wrote this down really quickly, just a sort of general update. I just sort of threw this on the agenda quickly at the last minute. But just to run through now, for those not in the UK, I'm going to use the term a shit sandwich, which means there's some good stuff, some bad stuff, and some more good stuff. So I'll start with some of the good stuff. What we've done just recently is implemented Moodle again. We used one of the really old versions of the Mahara Moodle plugin quite a few years ago, but there was a lot of limitations with it and issues. The new version that I think Aaron Wells worked on and released earlier this year, we've now implemented that. So we've implemented that on our Moodle, and there's lots and lots of lecturers that use it are very, very happy that our assessment submission process is going to be a lot easier, because that was the key thing, that it's the embedded assessment within Moodle, rather than students having to export their portfolios and upload them. And our academic services people are happy with that as well. I can show you, maybe next time I can show you what that looks like for people who have not seen it and how we're going to use it. I'm just aware of the time, so I'm going to zoom through. We've been running with standard portfolio sizes of 250 megabytes at the moment, but on one of the courses, fashion course, they're needing a bit more. So what we've done is put an on request limit of 1 gigabyte for students on that course, but they need to request it. They need to show that they actually need the space. and they just sort of basically put in a request for more space. We are moving. We've got an IDAM, which is ID management, identity and access management project on the go at the moment. It's probably not going to deliver for about a year to actually end users to see something of use. But one of the outputs of that is postgraduate access to alumni students. So one of the key issues we've had with students is, can I continue to access my portfolio after I've left? And it's not a Mahara problem, it's an institutional issue around ID management, but we are very much working on that now, and it's a much wider project. But that should see students being able to continue to use their portfolio for a year, 2 years, whatever we set as a time limit, after they've graduated from the university. So I think that's going to be helpful. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we may well move to 1510 at Christmas. We'll have to see if we can sort of almost backport our existing theme so it doesn't change too much for students currently using it, if that makes sense, so we don't scare them. Our academic year runs from September through to sort of June, so we don't want to really scare students halfway through. No, don't say the word awesome. Awesome is when a volcano erupts in front of you and you live to tell the tale. I'm just reading the chat room here. Also, the other good news is I just want to mention that Christina's invited us to be a Mahara supporter, and we've accepted that invitation. That's really good. Very, very pleased with that. So is our Director of Learning and Teaching. So we're going to get that up on our external website over the next couple of weeks. I've spoken to our external relations, but with all these things, it's not high on their agenda, so I'm just going to have to push them to do that. Now, the not so good news is that our postgraduate certificate in learning and teaching for higher education, which is the course that all new teaching staff have to take when they become lecturers at Solent University, and it's recognised as a sort of national qualification that all university lecturers need to hold as part of their contract in the UK. They've been using Mahara, and it was their programme leader that originated introducing Mahara to the university in the first place. They've actually stopped using it for this academic year. They did say they may revisit it, so maybe the new themes, new look and feel may help. So that's a bit of a sad news in a way. Their reason, simply, they found it too difficult to use. The lecturers found it too difficult to get on with. It was too confusing, whatever reasons. There's possibility it wasn't the right tool for the job they were trying to do as well. That is a possibility. So that impacts all new teaching staff effectively. There's about 35 staff a year, maybe more, take that course. On the other side, if they were having a bad experience with it, it's 35 people a year that aren't put off at the first hurdle with Mahara. So it could be good news. I don't know. But that's one of the things that's not so good. And just to echo something Beth was saying much earlier about getting more people involved in the Mahara user group, and you know the audience is quite small this evening, this morning, this afternoon, depending where you are, is that we're running the Mahara Huey UK, which is on the 9th and 10th of November. We've definitely seen much fewer submissions and proposals come in for that. So it's a smaller conference than it was last year. The real key thing that I've noticed, though, and this is a UK thing, is the further education sector. There's hardly any representation from the further education sector. Now, further education is the 16 years to 18, 19 years. So I don't know if that's like in America, that's high school sort of age, pre-university sort of sector. That sector's had quite a lot of cutbacks and budget cutbacks. So I think there's a limitation there on staff development funding to actually send people to conferences, whereas previous years there have been more people. So that's I think it's a local thing, but I'm just wanting to know, has the audience shrunk in the UK? I'm not sure. Is it just more, fewer people can engage? I'm not sure there, but that's another thing that's sort of potentially impacting the community side of things is UK education funding. Now, so back on the good stuff, we are continuing the courses that are continuing this year with Mahara use is PR and communications, which was the course. I presented a student interview with a student for that back at the AABL conference for you. We've got architectural and built environment students, we have fashion students, we have social work students, and the social works lecturer will be presenting at the UK conference next month. Marketing business students continuing to use. So we've got about 1,000 students, and all of them are using it for assessment purposes. Now, 5-6 years ago, we started using Mahara to enhance employability and get students building their digital self and so on. And in that time, it's now evolved to a platform that's used for assessment, and either building portfolios of evidence. The PR and com students are advertising themselves. Architectural students are putting in plans and drawings and so on, and images of buildings and so on. So lots of different ones. The social workers, they're actually using it with their industry-based practice assessors. So these are social work students that are in the workplace, and they're using it as a very private walled garden to record their experiences, work experience working with patients, and so it's a very, very walled garden, so very specialist there. But the one good thing, as we lose one course, the postgraduate certificate of learning and teaching, we've suddenly got 400 journalism students who have knocked on the door asking to use Mahara, and the reason is they are having problems with WordPress. So the method they're using, we haven't started them yet, they start in a couple of weeks' time on this, is they write stories, news stories, as reporters, and there's an editorial team each week that then review the stories and publish the stories out to WordPress. Now, previously, the students have been putting all their stories and publish them all to WordPress as draft, and then the editors can then publish them out to the live blog. And WordPress has really suffered and is struggling, and they're finding it's not fit for the purpose they want it to be for this. So Mahara to the rescue there. What they're doing is it's very simple. There's about 5 or 6 different modules that are taught across the journalism course. So there's various groups have been set up. The students are in that group, and then each week's editorial team that's nominated by the teacher are made group admins. So simply the students that are reporters put one story per page, which includes the text, images, video, anything else they've gathered for the story. They then submit that page to the group. The group administrators, which are the editors, can then review the stories, send them back to the students if they want them, better written or whatever, reviewed. And the ones that are the best ones, the best of them, they then get taken out. And at the moment they're cutting and pasting them, but we may do something different later. They're going to cut and paste them out onto their formal WordPress blog. So WordPress ends up just being the end point, but not the sort of production and editorial engine for this this process. So that's 400 journalism students that are suddenly on board and see it as the answer. They're particularly interested in the mobile app because then they can start constructing their stories on the move on their phones. So there was a sort of win there. And then really briefly, we've got about 3 minutes left, the future. Having mentioned alumni and postgraduate access, and the other thing that was just a conversation that we've had the other day is this: the marketing department, external relations, were wondering if it's possible to use Mahara so every student can have a university profile publicly. And my answer is, well, of course they can. It's already there. They just need to log in and they've got one. And they went away to think about that. So again, it may take some time, but that's suddenly the external relations marketing people have went, that's an interesting toy. Can we play with it, please? So that's a really brief 12-minute roundup from Solent. I don't know if there's anything anyone wants to ask me about any of those points. I'm just going to quickly look through the chat room and see what you've written.
Wow, Roger, those were a lot of things and really, really good things to hear from Solent. And for the postgraduate certificate, maybe they are coming back at some point. And it would be really good, as I mentioned in the chat, that if we could meet with them or get more feedback from them, more specific feedback to see if it's already some of the things that we know, or if it might actually be new things, and see how how we could change them and what we could implement it to see if they were interested in then using Mahara again for their purposes.
I think it's down to the course leader, because the course leader has been driven to distraction by partly the way we used Mahara. So where we had to previously, and this was to do with some of our regulations before, the students had to produce their portfolio, export it as a zip file, upload that zip file to the VLE. The lecturer then had to download it, unzip it, find the index or home HTML page, open it up as a static website, discover that half the embedded stuff didn't work because students had embedded whatever with different plugins and Embedly and stuff, and then they hadn't included a secret URL, so the lecturer couldn't go back and see the live portfolio. It was incredibly complicated, and therefore there was many places it could go wrong. Now I think moving to Mahood was going to save a lot of that problem. Again, they were back with that. I think also it was a change of course leader. So the previous course leader was the person who said, in the first place, let's get a portfolio, and phoned me up and asked me which one to get. So it's a personality thing as well, a course leader thing. So someone we need to work on, and someone we need to work on and sort of sort of bring them back on board, maybe, or relook at what they want to do and how they want to do it. And I think that's always the thing where we have to actually step back from the technology and say, what's the process? What are you trying to achieve? Let's find the right technology for it, rather than I found some technology, let's shoehorn it into this process. So there's a double side thing there. Yeah, and just quickly back to the Mahara Huey, what I have to say, although there's fewer papers, they've been really good quality. There's some really interesting papers there. The program is possibly out tonight or tomorrow. I need to quickly check with Erin. I think there's some emails I need to write tonight. They're going to publish it tomorrow, but we have got people coming. I'm just seeing Linda can't get here from Czech Republic, but we have got people coming from Denmark, Japan. There's a delegation from Japan coming, which is a long way to come, but there you go. To present a poster, and obviously Christina. We got Siggy coming over from Germany, so we've got people coming from around and about the place. So we've got quite a few people, international visitors, joining us. So looking forward to that next month. If it doesn't cause me a nervous breakdown in the meantime. Has anyone got any other further questions for me? Because I realise we're on to the hour, whichever hour it is for you.
Thanks so much, Roger. That was really great. You had a lot to share. So glad you're doing so well.
Yeah, well, it was a quick list. I thought I'd just scribble down some ideas, and there you go. That's where we are at the moment.
Okay, great. And thanks everyone for joining. And we'll look to plan our next mug meeting perhaps sometime in January. And I'll ask Heather to just do the same, try to get a poll together to figure out good time for everyone. But be open for any ideas on topics or how to get some more people involved in this group. Sounds good?
Yeah, Beth, as I said, I'll also.
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah.
Everyone talking at once or no one? I was just going to say I'll advertise this mug at the Huey conference in 3 weeks' time, or 4 weeks' time, whenever it is. So hopefully more people have become aware of it. We may see some new faces then.
That's great. That's great. If you get any sense of topics of what people would, might attract different people to attend, please share that with us too, Roger.
Okay, we'll do.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Christina and Keith, everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.